Hey guys, this is E-House for Gun Gamers, and today I figured I would just go over a brief little synopsis of some things I've found while running a 2-point sling for my airsoft adventures. Now, obviously what I'm going to talk about is just pertinent to things that I've found while using a 2-point sling on the airsoft field. I can't speak for, competition environments, real military use, long-term kind of carrying this every day for work. I'm just talking about purely what I've seen using a 2-point sling for airsoft because that's my depth of experience with it. So, with that said, I've got my Crytac CRB with a Viking Tactics 2-point sling right now. I've been experimenting with this sling for the past several weeks, and just figured I would give a little bit of an update on some thoughts that I have. Okay, first of all, let's go over some of the advantages of running a 2-point sling on the airsoft field. Now, running a 2-point sling means that if you're running it, properly, the weapon always on you. That's an advantage of slings in general. And with a 2-point sling, when you drop that weapon, if you're transitioning or for whatever, it tends to drop to the same part toward your weak side or your strong side, depending on how you're running the sling. Tends to drop to the same place regardless. And even if you just let the weapon fall, you can see the barrel pointing toward my weak side. Unlike with a 1-point sling, where if you let the weapon fall here, it's going to go right to your nuts. This one, you've got some tension on the front there, so it doesn't swing up and under and hit you where you don't want to be hit, and that's definitely very nice. And especially if you guide the rifle down, it'll stay right there. It'll just be easily accessible for when you want to bring it back up. Very nice. 2-point slings are very good at keeping the weapon in the same place consistently, and I really like that. Even when you move a bit, it does still have that bias towards your weak side. I would know I've run quite a bit with my weapon slung like this, and it really does work, especially when you have a quick adjust 2-point sling, which if you're going to get a 2-point sling, get a quick adjust. Don't waste your time on some of the fixed 2-point slings that don't have a rapid cinch feature. I've run a couple of 2-point slings that were just, regular old 2-point slings that you couldn't adjust quickly. A rapid cinch is absolutely critical because then I can have the weapon nice and tight to my body here for whatever I'm doing or whatever. It'll keep it right here, same place all the time, and it's nice and tight, not going anywhere. I can even cinch this tighter, and I've got this gun, it can only move a couple of inches off my body. So that's how you can get that, and it just keeps it right here, right where you want it, tight to your body. So if you're transitioning to your pistol, if you're tending to a medic role, if you're a medic for your game, or if you're doing anything in terms of, moving a flag for an objective, you can do all of that with that weapon staying right here, which is awesome. That's definitely one of my favorite things about a 2-point sling, or even a 1 to 2-point convertible. You still have this kind of capability with many of those 1 to 2-point convertible slings. And then with the Viking Tactics sling in particular, and these other rapid cinch slings, you can let it all back out again and get it right where you want it pretty quickly, pretty easily. So 2-point sling, very, very good retention on your body. Really, really great to get it to tight to you, keep it where you want. And on this particular setup, it's a little tricky, but if you want, you can actually bring that sling over your shoulder, bring the weapon to your back, and cinch it. You can have the weapon slung across your back like this. Keep it totally out of your way. With this guy, it's a little front heavy, and the way the sling is mounted to the front is a bit tricky, so you're going to have to evaluate your setup, whether or not that'll work for you. Personally, I prefer to just cinch it down right here and just keep it out of my way toward my weak side. Or if I really need to and I want to have it on my back, what I'll do is I'll drop my arm through, drop the weapon to my strong side, bring my other arm through, put it on my back, and then cinch from here. So when I cinch it from here, what I can do then is have the weapon on my back totally, out of my way, muzzle down, and that keeps it totally out of my workspace. Hands are totally free, nothing on my front, nothing in my way whatsoever, nothing on my sides. It's a little longer of a process than just being able to toss it around your back real quick, but when you're running your gun with, a mock suppressor, or if you have a light and you want to have that sling attached, as you can see I have it behind a pressure pad or something, it can make it a little tricky. So my recommendation is to just do some experimenting, see which one works for you, and don't try to put the gun on your back, because if you try to put the gun on your, don't try to put the gun on your back in this kind of setup at least, because if you do that, look at how it's sitting. That muzzle is going right around every bear. So, that's not good. We would prefer to avoid that if possible, especially because it can snag on things, it can flag your teammates, it can hit people. That's not good. I generally recommend keeping in the muzzle down configuration, especially when you can't keep that muzzle up on your back. In terms of where I have the 2-point sling attached, I have it, as I mentioned before, right behind my pressure pad for my light. So when I get a nice high grip, I have that sling just right behind my hand. Very nice. And I also have the rear of the sling on the stock, the very back of the stock. You can actually see I've got it right there, so it actually is in contact with my shoulder when I bring the weapon up. What I like about running it there is it makes transitioning shoulder to shoulder more easy with the 2-point sling. Because when I drop my arm out and make that transition, you can see that is keeping off my neck and it's not choking me. It's not snagging too much, so it just keeps that from choking me. And choking hazards are not fun, especially for small children and man-children, and I'm a man-child, so I like to avoid choking hazards when possible. Now, some of the disadvantages of running a 2-point sling include it's kind of tricky transitioning from shoulder to shoulder, and for Airsoft, we do that a lot. I mean, when you're working cover and you want to transition to your other shoulder, that's a little tricky right there, because you can see how tight that sling is when I try to bring it across. With the VTAC sling and many of the other rapid cinches, you can let that out so you can make that transition. And there you go, you have just enough length to work there. May or may not choke you, depending on how you're doing it though. So what I actually prefer to do is I will drop my arm through the sling, grab the mag well, bump the shoulder, and then make that transition. So what that'll do is it'll keep you from choking yourself at all, minimize the choking hazard, means you don't have to constantly adjust the length of the sling, and then once you want to go back to where you're at, you just grab that mag well, put that arm through, and there you go. It's a little slower than when you're working with a 1-point sling, and you basically just have to bump it up and over. That's kind of the disadvantage, but with a bit of practice, you can do it pretty quickly, which is not bad. Obviously, if someone runs up on you as you're doing that, you're probably pretty screwed. So I recommend practicing and being situational when you transition. I actually found that I don't need to transition as much as I do sometimes, so I've been playing with that. Like I said, this is an ongoing process. Really though, that's kind of the only disadvantage I found with the 2-point sling. Some guys say that it snags on their gear and snags on stuff. Maybe it's just because of this particular sling. I haven't had that problem. I really like the padding, and a lot of 2-point slings come with padding. I've noticed 1-point slings are often not as heavy on the padding, but that depends on what you're running. So evaluate your needs, evaluating what you're purchasing, and just take a look at what you want to do with it. Now, that said, there are a couple of guns I wouldn't recommend a 2-point sling for at all, honestly. If I was rocking a gun that was this short, cut off where my hand is, 2-point sling is kind of pointless at that point, because a 1-point sling will still keep that muzzle hanging basically in line with your waist. So a 1-point sling is definitely advantageous for some of the super short guns. Like I know G&G has their, I think it's called the Warthog series, and some of those are super short, like a 6-inch barrel. 1-point sling is probably going to be a little more flexible for those. It's a little pointless to have a 2-point, because even if you want to throw that around to your back, you can still do that because the gun's so damn short. Where 2-point slings excel though is, as I said, just keeping that gun in the same place when you drop it, for when you want to transition to your pistol, for when you want to do anything with objectives, or when you want to do anything with medicing, or for me, if you want to do anything with admin, because when you're adminning a game and when you're actually in charge of running a game and you've got 2 radios, 1 in each hand, and you're trying to figure things out, having a 2-point sling or a 1 to 2 point convertible where you can just drop that down, leave it there, forget it's there, and do whatever you need to do is absolutely invaluable, because having that 1-point sling, that rifle swinging all over right on front of you, that can just be a pain in the ass when you're trying to access stuff from your admin pouches on your chest. And this guy, you can just drop it here, or you can do what I was saying earlier and swap it out here, and I've got access to everything. I can just move the sling as I need to if I really need to. It's not as hard as working around an entire rifle hanging on your chest. So I find that really easy. It means I don't have to set down my rifle to do that kind of stuff, which is great, because setting down your rifle, let's face it, that's for squares. So anyways, those are my thoughts on running a 2-point sling for Airsoft. Maybe they were helpful. I hope they were. I hope maybe I've given you something to think about. Just evaluate your needs, evaluate what you're running, and take a look at what you want to do with it, and make your decision from there. I'm a big fan of the Mission Spec Irene Adaptive Sling, actually. That's a 1 to 2 point convertible. That's a great sling too. This VTAC sling is definitely highly recommended. I know Faro Concepts, Blue Force Gear, and Mission Spec themselves also make rapid cinch slings, so just take a look at what you want to do. Anyways, this is the House from Gun Gamers, signing off.